Your four favorites are Persona, The Lobster, Videodrome, and Dogville. My top choice for you is Synecdoche, New York. It has a play-within-a-play structure and theatricality that reminds me a lot of Dogville. It explores some complex, psychological, and existential themes like Persona. It has some moments of absurd humor like The Lobster, and it blurs the line between reality and fiction like Videodrome. Another one of my top choices for you is The Bitter Tears of Petra von Kant. Persona has a small cast consisting mostly of women, and this film has a small all-female cast. There's an element of S&M to it like Videodrome. Like The Lobster, it's about relationships and power dynamics, and it has a theatrical vibe to it like Dogville because it's set in one location, the set design plays an important role, and it's based on a play. Similarly, I think you should check out The Trial. It's a black and white existential film from the 60s like Persona. At times, it feels like a black comedy like The Lobster. Like Videodrome, the protagonist's perception of reality is distorted, and it reminds me of Dogville because the protagonist is trying to prove his innocence like how Grace was trying to get the people of Dogville to like her. It also has a surreal set design, which kind of reminds me of Dogville's minimalist set design. Benny's Video is one of the first films that popped into my head when I looked at your four favorites. The protagonist is obsessed with violent videos like Max and Videodrome, and the movie has a sort of cold, detached style to it, which reminds me of both The Lobster and Dogville. And like Persona, it depicts a sort of psychological unraveling. There were a lot of Lars von Trier films that I thought of that you didn't have marked as watch, and I don't want to recommend all of them, but I especially think you'd like Melancholia because it explores the psyches of two women like Persona. It's science fiction, and there are sci-fi aspects to both The Lobster and Videodrome. And of course, it's from the director of Dogville, so there are going to be some similar themes and a lot of familiar faces. And I should probably recommend Manderley since it's the sequel to Dogville. Since there's some sci-fi in your favorites and identity is one of the main themes in Persona, I think you should check out The Face of Another and Seconds. I feel like I'm always recommending Three Women alongside Persona because of its exploration of identity and duality, but there's also a feeling of isolation in Persona as well as some of your other favorites. So in addition to Three Women, I'm going to recommend another Robert Altman film, Images. I'm going to be predictable and recommend The Double Life of Veronique like I always do. I tend to recommend Tarkovsky films to people with Bergman films in their favorites and vice versa. And I read your review for Stalker and spent a lot of time trying to decide which Tarkovsky film would be right for you, and eventually decided on Mirror because like Persona, it has a poetic feel to it and it has a lot to do with memory and identity. Swiss Army Man is an absurdist black comedy about love like The Lobster. Fingernails is like a less weird version of The Lobster that coincidentally is also from a Greek director. Since you like Videodrome, another Cronenberg film I think you should check out is Existence because it's kind of like the video game version of Videodrome. Possessor was directed by Cronenberg's son and is also a body horror film like Videodrome. It's also a psychological exploration of identity like Persona. I was writing down movies that came to mind while I was watching Dogville, and besides the ones I already mentioned, Birth came to mind because like Dogville, there's a child being creepy towards Nicole Kidman. Baby Girl came to mind because like Dogville, people treat Nicole Kidman like a dog. The Elephant Man came to mind because John Hurt is the narrator in Dogville and he's in The Elephant Man, and his character is ostracized and mistreated by the people around him like Nicole Kidman's character in Dogville. Speaking of John Hurt, he's also the narrator in Perfume, the Story of a Murderer. And like Dogville, this movie depicts some of the worst aspects of human nature, and the protagonist is shunned by society. And Paddington is the star of this movie, and he was in The Lobster.